Love isn't something we invented.
They chose me. It's not a ghost.
You were my ghost. It was you.
You cannot always trust the facts, especially when facts have a way of changing. In Interstellar, Cooper insists that things that he cannot see, analyze, or test, like the ghost that Murphy claims that she sees in her room, are not real. And yet, Cooper believes that the Apollo moon missions were real because he and millions of other people around the world saw them on live television.
You are fake news.
Even though updated textbooks at Murphy School describe how America faked the moon missions in order to deceive the Soviet Union into pouring all of its resources into
rockets and other useless machines.
You don't believe we went to the moon?
Now in Interstellar, would Cooper have taken a ship to Miller's planet if he knew that a giant tidal wave would hit the ship, flood it, and cause him to lose 23 years with his family in only a matter of hours? Would Amelia Brand have left Earth and her aging father, Professor Brand, to find Dr. Edmonds if she knew for certain that Dr. Edmonds was already dead? And would Dr. Romilly have waited alone on the main ship for Doyle, Dr. Brand, and Cooper to return from Miller's planet if he had known that he would be alone for 23 years instead of only 2 years? Again, the answer is no, because some things are not meant to be known, especially in advance. Cooper does not believe in anything that he cannot see.
You are fake news.
Or prove scientifically. However, you do not need faith to believe what you can see. You need faith to believe what you cannot see. Speaking of hope in something for which there is no evidence or proof, Cooper places his trust in Professor Brand's promise and not guarantee that he will have solved the gravity equation by the time he returns to Earth. As Murphy is suspended from her school for fighting a classmate for teasing her about Cooper's old textbooks with the Apollo moon landings, and as Cooper becomes upset with the principal at Tom's school for saying that Tom should be a farmer instead of going to college to study engineering, which is something that the world does not need. Truth can be a hard pill to swallow. For if Amelia Brand had known for certain that Dr. Edmonds was dead, she may not have signed on with the Endurance. And if Dr. Romilly had known in advance how relativity and loneliness really felt, he may not have chosen to stay by himself on the Endurance to wait for Cooper, Dr. Brand, and Dr. Doyle to return from Miller's planet. In fact, Cooper may not have chosen Miller's planet in the first place if he had known in advance that doing so would take 23 years away from him and his family. He may not even have left his family if he had known in advance that he would never see them again. And he definitely would not have chosen Dr. Mann's planet over Dr. Edmonds' planet if he had known in advance that Dr. Mann had faked the data on his planet in order to be rescued. And finally, Dr. Mann himself would not have signed on with the Lazarus shuttle missions if he had known in advance that he would end up on a planet that could not support human life.
Pray you never learn just how good it can be to see another face.
For in order to find another planet to save the human race, Cooper has to leave his family, unlike the 12 scientists that Professor Brand selected for the Lazarus missions who had no families or anyone else that they cared about on Earth. Therefore, the space travelers of the Lazarus missions broke alchemy's first law of equivalent exchange because they wanted to save the future of humanity without offering anything in return. However, nothing is free, as saving the human race also comes with a price. And if Cooper or Dr. Mann had known in advance the price they would be asked to pay in order to save the human race, they would not have paid it.
Don't let me leave, Murph.
Professor Brand chooses humans for space travel instead of robots because humans have the ability to transform fear into innovative ideas and solutions, unlike robots which cannot be programmed to fear death.
Goodbye, Tars.
See you on the other side, Coop.
On the other hand, Professor Brand also believes that humans with families are selfish and that humans with strong emotional attachments have trouble adapting to change, letting go, and moving forward into the unknown. Therefore, Professor Brand's plan to save mankind is letting go of Earth
Detach
and incubating 5,000 fertilized human eggs on one of the 12 planets in a galaxy on the other side of a wormhole that NASA discovered 48 years ago. To accomplish this, Professor Brand sends 12 humans in 12 separate Ranger shuttles through the wormhole to study 12 planets to find that one planet with the best potential for supporting human colonization. These 12 shuttle missions are collectively known as the Lazarus missions. Professor Brand selected men and women that he wanted to think and behave like robots.
See you on the other side, Coop.
Scientists that would think logically and rely on data, and not scientists that would formulate their conclusions on things that they could not perceive in 3 dimensions. Professor Brand wanted the men and women he selected for the Lazarus shuttle missions to trust only what they could see, hear, touch, and test. He did not want these scientists to put their trust in intangible things such as
Love.
their emotions, speculation, and worst of all, their instincts. Like Professor Brand, Cooper also discounted the value and existence of things that he could not physically discern in 3-dimensional space, such as the ghost in Murphy's room and love. When Dr. Brand told Cooper that her love for Dr. Edmonds and his planet were both real and measurable to her, Cooper told her that love was nothing more than a social utility. And as the US government and NASA faked the Apollo missions in order to trick the Soviet government into squandering all of its resources on
Rockets and other useless machines.
Dr. Mann fakes the data of his planet in order to deceive Cooper into choosing the wrong planet. Dr. Mann nearly kills Cooper, who barely survives. However, this experience is an epiphany to Cooper. He had it all wrong. Love was not a social utility, as he had told Amelia Brand. Love was real, and as Amelia had been drawn away from humanity by going after the data recorder on Miller's planet, a decision which costed Dr. Doyle his life. He, Cooper, had been drawn away from humanity by allowing himself to be misled by the data that Dr. Mann had manipulated in order to trick him into selecting the wrong planet. Cooper apologizes to Dr. Brand. They should have followed her instincts to the right planet, Dr. Edmonds' planet, as it is our instincts which enable us to see what our eyes alone cannot see.
Love.
Which was, in this case, Dr. Mann's deception. And later in the film, when Cooper enters the black hole, he also enters the Tesseract, where objects that are not visible or scientifically discernible in 3-dimensional space are tangible. And here he sees Murphy from behind the bookcase in her room, first as a 10-year-old girl and then, in the blink of an eye, as a 38-year-old woman. He also realizes that he was wrong about everything, for the ghost in Murphy's room was him. And what he mistook for gravity in her room was really love, as he finds the world line that represents love connected to the watch he left with her. He uses this world line to transmit the quantum data by Morse code to the big hand of her watch. The people of the future did not choose him to save the world. They chose him to be the bridge. They chose Murphy to save the world. And as there is nothing that can escape a black hole, Dr. Mann and Cooper both learned that no man can escape the human condition, no matter if he has a family or not, or no matter how far he travels from Earth.
See you on the other side, Coop.
Although Christopher Nolan and his younger brother Johnathan are both credited with writing Interstellar, the film's premise was conceived by producer Linda Obst and theoretical physicist Kip Thorne, who both also collaborated on the 1997 film Contact. Paramount initially wanted Steven Spielberg to direct Interstellar from a script written by Johnathan Nolan, whom the film company hired in 2007. However, Steven Spielberg backed out of directing Interstellar after moving his production studio from Paramount over to Walt Disney Studios in 2009. a development that prompted Paramount to hire Christopher Nolan in 2014 on his brother's recommendation. Both the film script and production represents a pair of collaborations, with the final script combining scripts written individually by Christopher and his brother Johnathan, while the film is co-produced by Christopher Nolan's company Syncopy and Linda Obst's company Linda Obst Productions. Director Christopher Nolan wanted Interstellar to be premised on a worldwide Dust Bowl-like event. To bring realism to his film, Nolan received permission from director Ken Burns and producer Dayton Duncan to use interview clips from their 2012 documentary Dust Bowl. The real interviews with Dust Bowl survivors from that documentary are seamlessly combined with interview snippets of actors in Interstellar, recalling what life was like during the movie's fictional dust storm. For the film's musical score, Nolan brought in Hans Zimmer, who also scored Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, as well as Nolan's 2010 science fiction thriller Inception. Executive producer Kip Thorne gave Christopher Nolan 2 conditions in directing Interstellar. Number 1, that Nolan would agree not to violate established physical laws. And 2, that Nolan would refrain from taking creative liberties in the script at the expense of real science. Nolan agreed to Thorne's conditions. In fact, the science in Interstellar impressed astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson so much that he went on to say that it was theoretically possible to interact with the past as Nolan had depicted in the film. In order to flesh out Kip Thorne's and Linda Obst's 8-page treatment for Interstellar, Johnathan Nolan studied relativity at the California Institute of Technology. Johnathan Nolan drew inspiration from Disney's 2008 animated film WALL-E, as well as 20th Century Fox's 2009 science fiction action adventure Avatar. His brother Christopher drew inspiration from Fritz Lang's 1927 film Metropolis, Stanley Kubrick's 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey, Ridley Scott's 1982 film Blade Runner, and Steven Spielberg's 1975 film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Christopher Nolan said that he wanted to make a science fiction film that was accessible to mainstream audiences. However, unlike most mainstream films, Interstellar challenges you to think. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos like this one. Thank you.